Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Road Tripping with Thousand Trails, our live podcast. I'm here with Aaron, and is it Masa? Is that pronounced correct?
Yeah, it's fine. I get multiple pronunciations. I'm fine with all of
As long as they don't call you late for dinner, right? And
them.
the old
About it.
line. So we're here today to talk about the Thousand Trails program and road tripping. And Aaron, I just wanted to start off. First of all, you and I had a little conversation yesterday, and it's amazing. You've been full timing, 40-foot fifth wheel. So tell us a little bit about your background and how long you've been going, and I guess you're taking quite a crew with you, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. So back in 2017, my wife and I decided to sell the majority of our stuff and hit the road with the kiddos. We started off in a 30-foot Airstream, so there were 5 of us. We had the bunk model, so everybody had kind of their own space. But my oldest, about 2.5 years in, decided that it was a good plan to grow 18 inches in about 18 months. So that kind of pushed us out of the Airstream a little bit. Currently, we're in a 40-foot fifth wheel Solitude, bunkhouse, 4 slides, and as we kind of mentioned yesterday when you and I talked, probably tripled our internal space for living. So that's what we've been doing here recently as far as the rig is concerned. And then between 2017 and 2020, we just kind of traveled around. We traveled predominantly inside the Thousand Trail system. And then in 2020, I started working for the company. So I've got experience on both sides of the coin, if you will.
Well, what's really nice is I do a lot of podcasts, and I've done interviews with a lot of people that are in the RV industry and OEMs. And you find some that camp occasionally, but nobody that has really done what you've done, full timing it out there, having the issues with internet, having the issues with, campground spots, just a little bit. So you've been going 5 years now, right? Since 2017, 6 years. And tell me a little bit about the Thousand Trails. I worked at Winnebago Industries for 15 years, and I spent 5 years on the road. So I did have a chance to stay in a few of the Thousand Trails, probably back in the early 90s, but just a few. And I think they've changed. But tell us about the system. Tell us about the program.
Yeah. So it's membership-based camping. We have 82 parks across the country. Kind of predominantly, not in entirety, but predominantly around the outside edge of the country, which I affectionately call the Smile of America, because it's where all the happy places are, right?
Yep.
So we've got 82 parks, and basically the membership, depending on the level that you have, you get to use it like any other membership. You come and you make a reservation, show up for your camping stay, and head home. That's kind of it in a nutshell. There's, just like with anything, like a gym membership, let's say. Of course, you've got your membership fee that comes into play, but other than that, you get to use the facilities within the bounds of the membership level that you have.
Yeah. Well, and we've got a coupon for $100 off, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And then the downloads that we have, just looking at some of the questions, we do have one that came in here is we have the pre-trip checklist, which is a documented. I have a copy of it right here. We got one for motorhomes and one for travel trailers. Tell us a little bit about, so are there any age limits? One of the hottest things out in the internet, in the chats and the forums and stuff like that is overcrowded camping, especially at the national parks. The price of it, there's now a 10-year-old age limit on your RV. Talk a little bit about that with Thousand Trails.
Yeah, we don't. That's one of the nice things about Thousand Trails. We don't have an age limit. We do have an RVIA certification requirement, but other than that, as long as the rig is in good condition and everything works as intended when it was built, we don't have an age limit. That's kind of it. We try to simplify it as much as we possibly can.
Okay. Well, and let me just expand a little bit on the RVIA certification that you mentioned there, and we talked a little bit about it yesterday. But with RV manufacturers aren't held to the same codes and standards that automobile manufacturers. You don't have to crash test anything over 10,000 pounds. Maybe it's a little more than that now, but there's this little gray area in between the motorized that gets up to a certain point, and then buses, and then the travel trailer industry. So RVIA is the Recreational Vehicle Industry Association. It is the governing body of the RV industry, and they have inspectors, they have the codes, they go through all the stuff, and it's really the only safeguard to make sure that that RV is not built in the backyard with a bunch of parts pulled from all over everywhere, which you can do. We see a lot of homemade trailers out there, but having an RVIA certification really is a safety factor for wiring, for everything else that protects not only the persons there, but people in your campground and your system as well. Okay.
Yeah, and that's the whole point. Is we prioritize the safety of the members, and so that RVIA certification lets us know that those standards are being met for the rigs and the RVs that are coming into the parks.
Okay. So one of the things that's a download here is the pre-trip checklist, and I do a lot of questions. I work with CoachNet, one of the providers out there, and over 50% of the breakdowns and the issues that people have, they're saying in their phone calls are people not understanding how the system works or something they did and usually could prevent it. So the checklist is something that, you can't just jump in your RV and run down the road without having certain things. So, you've lived through that. Tell me a little bit about what your checklist is and maybe, how you came about developing that.
Yeah, so I think it's a little bit different depending on what your scenario is, right? That checklist is a little bit different for somebody who is going out for the weekend, as opposed to somebody who's traveling, 3 or 4 weeks at a time, constantly moving. For us, we kind of jumped in with both feet. We didn't ever really do the weekend thing. We sold all the stuff and hit the road. So my checklist was a really long one for the first trip. But then after that, it was just kind of regular checks. When I'm getting ready to leave a site, getting ready to take a trip, I'm checking the tires. I'm making sure that there's not anything that I missed externally on the rig. Just doing a walk around, a quick look, visual inspection on the rig itself. And then of course all the safety stuff, right? When you're hitching up, whether it's a bumper pull or a fifth wheel, whatever your tow connection is, just double checking that stuff. One of the things that my wife and I always do when we hook up the fifth wheel, we always do the pull test. We pull the front jacks just maybe an inch off the ground so that if for some reason the hitch lets go or something like that, there's something to catch the rig. But we're always checking those safety boxes, checking the trailer brake before we go anywhere.
You can always tell somebody that hasn't done the pull test. They've got the V in the tail back in the box of the fifth wheel, that nice little V-shaped.
Yep.
I bet they check it after that.
Yeah, I bet they do too. Because that's not a cheap fix.
No, it's not. So we do have a question. Jenny asks, how can I get a reservation at Yosemite this summer? My camper friend says I might already be too late to make a reservation.
So it all depends on the membership level that you have. We have booking windows that are tied to the different membership levels. And so the most common membership that we have is called the Camping Pass, and you've got a 60-day booking window on that membership. So that being said, Yosemite is one of the popular locations, right? So the things you want to do is, number one, you want to make sure that you're maximizing whatever booking window you have. You're planning as far out as you possibly can. The second thing to keep in mind is that our reservations change. They're not set, right? Similar to somebody who decides to get a gym. I'll go back to the gym membership analogy, right? They wake up Tuesday morning and they're like, I'm not going to go today, right? It's a similar thing. So we have reservations that change from day to day. You can check on Monday and we're completely full for the next 60 days. You check on Tuesday or Wednesday and we've got available spots. So what I call it is affectionately chasing a cancellation. Check every day, every couple of days. You're going to be able a lot of the time. Nothing that we do is a guarantee of a spot. That's not it. Once you have the reservation, you've got a spot. But that reservation is the thing that sometimes, especially with those popular locations, you may just have to check back every couple of days, and you can. A lot of the time, you can piece something together, even at the popular spots.
Yeah. Well, and right now, probably the most viewed topic in the RV industry, when you go to any of the forums out there, I know there's a couple articles that were written by RVTravel.com have gotten over 700,000 views on crowded campgrounds. And, you know, her comment about might be too late to get a campground in Yosemite. If you weren't there when it first opened up on the regular national park campgrounds, those things fill up immediately, absolutely right away. And the other thing is talk a little bit about, you know, the availability to get into a lot of these places and the price. You know, I know some of these national campgrounds. I talked to a couple of people that spent $150 for a tent site at some of the national parks, and they're over $200, $250 in some of the national park run campgrounds. So address that a little bit.
Yeah, it's an interesting comparison because the price of camping per night seems to be going higher and higher. When I first hit the road back in 2017, I did some of my own research, and I came up with, it seemed like about $50 a night was kind of the average that I was seeing at the time. Based on what I've seen recently and just my personal research, it seems like it's closer to $75-$80 a night these days. And so the price just continues to go up along with the popularity of camping in general. The nice thing about our product, about Thousand Trails, first of all, you asked about the price. You go look it up online. It's $670 for a year. That gives you 12 months of access to a section of the country. So you mentioned Yosemite. I'll use that as an example. That's in our southwest zone. And in that zone, we have, I mean, just in California, we have 16 parks. We've got a few that are scattered among some of the other states, but that's where the highest concentration is. And we actually, I answered the question as if you were talking about our park at Yosemite. I don't know if you actually were, but our campground at Yosemite, it's called Yosemite Lakes. It is the last campground before the entrance to Yosemite National Park. So it's a prime location. It's super popular. That being said, that $670 gets you access to the entire zone for a year. And so you're not just limited to, hey, I want to go to Yosemite. The question becomes, where else do you want to go? Why are you camping? What do you enjoy about camping?
Oh, we just had Aaron Freeze on it, and we'll have him come back. But one of the things that I wanted to address as well is the fact that, you know, the price of this membership, you're seeing, he is saying $70. I think that's a little low. It all depends on what part of the country you go to. I'm from Iowa, and we actually pay people to camp here because nobody wants to stay here. But, you know, if you're going to camp for more than a week a year, you pay for that membership in 1 week. If you're looking at $75 to $100 campground fees in there, and you get to stay at prime locations all over the country. So, you know, to me, I think if you're going to do any amount of camping out there, it's a great thing to have. Now, one of the things that Aaron and I talked about yesterday a little bit too is he's got a 40-foot fifth wheel that he is using to go around the area with. And did I hear Aaron come back on? I heard a heavy sigh, but so we'll see what happens. Anyway, so the 40-foot, and I get this a lot at my camp, my seminars that I do around the country, is I have people say, well, I'm going to stay at 30 feet. There's even some national park units that have come out now that are specialized, that are 29 model designations to stay under that 30-foot range. And really isn't a nationwide 30-foot length limit around the country. I've taken 37 to 40-foot motorhomes all over the country. Aaron was talking yesterday about driving all over with not only a 40-footer, but then the truck in front of that. And yeah, you don't want to go with a large campground or camper like that deep into the national parks and places where you got really tight bends and stuff. But the Thousand Trails is set up in such a way, it's they've got a main office. You come in, you've got pull-through sites. It's so easy to get in, and especially if you're first timing and you're just starting out, and you want something a little easier to do it. And that's something I also do in my seminars, is when we do a driving seminar, we put on the dash, always pull through, just to remind them that when you go into a gas station, get the one that you can pull in and easily pull out with, and not have to worry about trying to back something up, going into the campgrounds, the fueling stations, those types of things. So the nice thing, and especially getting right into Yosemite, you're right at the gate. You don't want to take your rig into those sightseeing places. You want to take your tow vehicle or your towed car with you in the back of it. So Jenny asks, or that was Jenny, Kayla asks, do all of your parks have restroom services for smaller car campers? And I'm going to let Aaron answer that when he comes back, but I do know for a fact, he and I talked yesterday about what they have available for services at the site. And most of the campgrounds will have full electrical hookups, water hookups. There are some dump stations at certain sites around areas, but every one of them has a dump station in the park that's kind of out and away, for that, because they're not, most of them aren't full-time, staying there for an entire year, like you would see some that would have dump stations into it. So another thing we talked about is pet-friendly parks, and they are all pet-friendly parks. They do have some restrictions as far as when it comes to exotic pets, so mostly dogs and cats they're talking about. But one of the things that you really want to do if you're going to be traveling with any kind of pets outside of dogs and cats, check with the state regulations on bringing something across state lines, because there's a lot of different states that won't let you have certain exotic pets and stuff like that. But normally, most of the campgrounds are going to have a policy of, if you have your pets under control and they're not obnoxious, then I've seen where they put, we welcome friendly pets, and I wish they'd say we welcome well-behaved children in some of the parks that I've seen. But I think we had Aaron come back. Is that right?
I'm back. Can you hear me okay?
Back. Okay, I filled in for you, not as well as you would have, but I filled in it. So Kayla asked, do all your parks have restroom services for smaller car campers? And I addressed the electrical and water and dump stations, but she's thinking more bathroom, shower, stuff like that. So if you want to address and give us a little overview of the parks themselves. I know they're all different, but I mean, just kind of what you would expect.
Sure. So yes, the answer to the question is we have bathhouses, or whatever you want to call them, at just about every campground. Showers, restrooms that are out in the campground, available for members or guests to use. What are you going to find at a Thousand Trails campground? The majority of our parks are very diverse. They're not cookie cutter. That comes from 20 plus years of acquiring already built parks. And so the nice thing about that is the 10 parks that I love may not be the 10 parks that you love. Mm-hmm. But we can both be happy in the system, because we know what we enjoy, we know what we like. So the sites themselves, you're going to find water and electric for sure. The full hookup at the site is going to vary by park. That's not 100% across the system, but the parks do have dump stations available for use when you're exiting the park. So And we're, over the years, we are investing significant dollars back into the system and upgrading the electrical, to upgrading the water, beginning to work on some of those visual things like the lodges and the amenities themselves. So that's the kind of stuff where, the reinvestment back into the system is going right now.
Yeah, and some campgrounds are designed to be the destination, and some campgrounds are designed to support a destination. Like if you go to Yosemite, I would imagine that the campground isn't the priority there. It's visiting Yosemite. So
it's true. That being said, we just recently renovated the lodge there. It's gorgeous, 2-story lodge. The welcome center is beautifully been redone. There's a river that runs right through the middle of the park. It's a really, really nice park. Yes, the goal when you go there is to go into Yosemite National Park, right? But the park itself is very, very nice with some very recent upgrades.
So you spent all this time on the road. Give some of your our viewers here and members and potential members a little bit of tips about where when you want a trip plan. There's times that you want to go, and there's times you probably want to stay away from. As far as how many millions of people are going to come into Zion all in this one weekend, and
sure,
talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, you're always going to have popular locations. You're always going to have spots that, I'll use Seaside, Oregon as an example. We have a park that's right there in town. It's a great tourist spot. It's on the beach. It's a beach town. Everybody loves to go there. So something like that, if you're trying to get in there during the summer and you're trying to get in there last minute, probably hit or miss. Same with any campground, right? You go anywhere that's popular and you're trying to get in there last minute, probably not. At least it's going to be a challenge, right? Yep. That being said, the traffic that I saw as a member is, it might be busy during the winter in the south or during the summer in the north, but those shoulder seasons, there was a ton of space available.
Yep.
And I think that's true everywhere. I don't think that's unique to Thousand Trails itself. I think that's just traffic in general.
No, and where I was going a little bit with this is that, it's great that you can do Thousand Trails. You can get a campground site and a lot easier than most of them out there. Beautiful places. But, if you go to Zion where 2 million people are going to be that week, you're not going to get to see the stuff. So a good road trip planning, session and, finding out when are those peak seasons, when are those times where, I may get a site here, but then I'm going to stand in line 2 hours for an ice cream cone in the park.
Well, and I think to your point, if I'm hearing the question correctly, is how do you trip plan? What's the best way to do that? And I think it boils down to, what do you want to do? For folks who want to do the touristy stuff, build it in. You're going to spend 2 hours in line for an ice cream cone. If you're looking to do something unique, it just takes time. Find your favorite trip planning software. There's 2 or 3 of them out there that you can piece together a route. You can kind of plan and create it around experiences and memories that you want to have with the family. For us, when we hit the road, we didn't have a set plan. A lot of people that I talk to are like, well, we're going to hit all 50 states in 12 months, or we want to hit all the national parks, or whatever. They have a certain goal in mind. And depending on what you're trying to do kind of determines the amount of time it's going to take to plan that trip. For us, we were just focused on experiences with our kids and making memories. It wasn't so much about where we were as who we were with. And that was something that we really, really connected with inside the Thousand Trails system, is connecting with people who kind of thought that same way.
Yep. Well, and I'm going to put a little plug in for RV Lifestyle Repair. If you are going to be going to these national parks, we have Sue Bray did similar to you with the fifth wheel, traveling all over the country, and there are dozens of articles about the different parks and some tips and I don't think so much campgrounds as much. You know, we want to stay at the Thousand Trails one, but just kind of getting those where to go, what to see, time of year type things. So I would highly recommend taking a look at those. So what are the most popular parks or popular campsites within your system?
Well, it's
All of them.
it's well, yeah, for sure. It's time and place and what you like. I'm from Texas originally, and so it's funny. I really, really enjoy the Pacific Northwest because it has hills and mountains and trees, and these are things that are tall trees. Let me clarify. These are things that don't exist a whole lot in Texas. Texas is majority flat.
Have you been to Iowa?
I haven't yet. But,
so flat here we can see Canada. So
yeah. But for instance, we met some friends on the road. They're Canadian. They have gorgeous scenery up in Canada. They love the desert. That's their happy place. So we've got popular locations no matter what you're looking for. You're looking for woods in the mountains. We've got popular spots. One of them, for example, that's an affiliate park of ours is Mount Hood Village. It's about 20-30 minutes from the top of Mount Hood. Seaside, Oregon is a great example of the beach. We've got 3 other properties on the Oregon coast. We've got coastal properties in California. We have stuff that's further inland up in the mountains. We've got we've got stuff close to San Diego. We've got another park that's really, really nice in Arizona. If you enjoy kind of desert stuff, it's in Cottonwood, Arizona, Verde Valley. It's a great park. It's about 45 minutes from Flagstaff. So there's plenty to do in those areas, and looking to plan a trip through Thousand Trails. There's going to be stuff to do within 45 minutes to an hour and a half, where you can take day trips. You can go out and do things, and then come back to the park as your base.
Okay. Talk a little. My wife and I love wineries. What's your number one park around or a campsite around a winery?
If we were going to talk wineries, I'd probably say our park in Russian River for location. It's right there in Cloverdale. It's in Sonoma County, about 20 minutes north, I think, of Napa area. Yep. So I mean, there's a ton of wineries in that area.
Yeah. Well, there's a whole loop in there. We've gone out there several times. We belong to a winery club called Gunlock Bundschuh over in Sonoma, and gone up into the Russian River Valley. What I really love about that whole west side of the loop is it's non-commercialized. You get over onto the right side, and Napa itself has become really difficult to get around. And so if you're able to base out of that Russian River and just work that side there, that is beautiful country and just so easy to get around to. So that's kind of fun. So I've got a couple other activities. I've got some friends that are following around ballparks. Have you ever followed the certain baseball parks or a theme around the country?
I haven't. That being said, I've known a few folks that do. We have some parks that are over around Boston. A lot of people use our Arizona parks. We have, again, they're affiliate parks. We have they use those for spring training. They go down there and bounce around and check out the different teams. We've got parks in Florida. Folks do the same kind of scenario. The popular spots, again, it all depends on what you like. You talk to person A and maybe they grew up in Boston. Maybe they have memories of that ballpark. Somebody else, maybe it's San Diego history. Maybe it's, somewhere else in the country. And it's just a question of where are you trying to go? But we've got, like I said, the majority of our parks are running around the outside edge of the country, so you can get close to a lot of these larger metro areas that have professional sports teams, including baseball.
Okay. So what if you were to give somebody a tip on, how to make your road trip, go a little more seamlessly, smoother? What would be a tip for that? And it looks like we lost Aaron again on it. So he just disappeared in there. So I guess I will take that question. I guess, I do seminars around the country and I get new people coming in. And, I guess the first thing that I look at is if I'm going to go out and do any camping, and this is whether you're going to Thousand Trails or any other campground that's out there, it's always a good idea to look at your trip, be prepared. There are certain things that if you're new to RVing, especially, you get that first kit and you get that walk around real fast, and all of a sudden, you remember about 10% of it, and then you get to the campground. The thing I really like about Thousand Trails is that, you have more experienced RVers there, and RVers love to help out with any problems you have, walking through orientations, helping to back in, all that kind of stuff. You have really nice, clean, updated facilities. We're seeing a lot of these campgrounds since RVing has just exploded. Was it 2020? They sold 600,000 RVs, and these campgrounds are just getting completely saturated and filled up. And there's not a lot of improvement, but there's a lot of wear and tear on them. Where as a Thousand Trails like this with the membership-based program, I feel that you're really seeing some nice amenities in it. You're seeing very clean facilities. You're seeing top of the line electrical and water, so forth. All that stuff is regulated. It's checked on a daily basis or a periodic basis as far as quality. One of the things that I always tell people is, before you hit the road, there's things that you should do. Very first thing is look at what type of a toolkit that you have. And, everybody's going to change depending on their, the level of DIY ability. But, I think it's paramount that you take a look at some of the things. First of all, I'm going to connect to an electrical system at the campground. So I want to make sure that I check the campground, I check the polarity, I make sure I'm not doing too much of an amp draw. So a couple things that I look at, this is a non-contact voltage tester that will make sure that I have power coming into my rig. And all these you can get at home improvement stores, at Harbor Freight. Lippert at lci1.com has a basic kit kind of set up with a lot of this stuff. The next thing I do is I have this There's Aaron. You see me yet? There we go.
Hey.
So I'm assuming that the feed is back. We had a little bit of a glitch. And let's see if we get. Hopefully we didn't. We had 21 people online. So I think Katie can see me. And if you can, why don't you type a little note in the notes up here, or just send me a text. There's Aaron. Can't hear him. And I'm doing the double thing again here. Hello. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4. So we still have 21 people online. If we got we got some extra questions. What part of your routine has been the biggest help in having a seamless campground pack-up? And let me find out here. All right, sorry for the delay here. I think everybody can hear me. Is that correct, Katie?
Yes.
Okay, I'm on. So I'm going to hit this. I don't see Aaron back on here. And what part of your routine has the biggest help in having a seamless campground pack-up? And for me, that has been a pre-departure checklist, which is very similar to our pre-departure or our pre-trip checklist, meaning before we leave there. But having a routine to walk around and just make sure that everything is unplugged, that everything is packed away, your water system, your electrical system, your dump station, anything like that you might have, that your antenna is down, if you have the batwing antenna, steps in. So just like you would have a pre-trip checklist at your home, that you got all these things going on, and you can pretty much pattern it after the same checklist that we've got here and use some of the same stuff, is that you always want to check your tires every time you hit the road. That is something that I see a lot of people don't do. And according to the RV Safety and Education Foundation, they've been weighing over 50,000 RVs for the past 20 some years. And over 70% of those have had underinflated tires in that. And you reduce the carrying capacity of your rig by having underinflated tires. So, we're seeing a lot of stuff out in the roads. So make that walk around, check those things, to make sure that they work, or that you got them put away properly. And that will give you, pretty much a seamless pack up. So what has been Aaron's favorite Thousand Trails campsite so far? Aaron is not back on with us yet, but so let me get back to some of the tools here that we were talking about. This is a voltage tester, and all it does, it's actually a GFCI outlet tester, but when you plug it in, it will also tell you voltage of the unit. And so what's nice about this is, first of all, I know that it's wired correctly. Second of all, I know that I'm getting proper voltage. You want 120 volts. That's kind of the sweet spot. I can go down to 10. I can go up to 127, actually almost 130, but I like 127 before I start to do some surge damage, or even low voltage is going to make my motors run a lot heavier, draw more amps, and eventually ruin them. To me, one of the best things that you can get is what's called a surge protector that is like this one from Surge Guard. It's now owned by Southwire, but you plug this in and it will tell you if it's wired correctly, what the voltage coming in, and what your amp draw is. Because that's another thing you're going to need to know at the campground. Now, Aaron earlier talked about how you got almost full amenities in there, but if you got a 50 amp circuit, you can run just about everything. But if you have a 30 amp circuit, you're going to have to manage some things. You're going to have to know I can't run both roof air conditioners at the same time because they're going to draw about 14 amps. And that leaves me right at that 30 amp circuit. So this is going to tell you where you're at in that, that amp draw of your rig. It's also important, in my opinion, to understand what draws from inside the rig. And if you look at some of our downloads that we have on our site, one of them is an amp draw. So you know exactly what the microwave is going to run. You know exactly what the roof air conditioners, the refrigerator, the other components. And then another tool that I use, and I just have my little handy bag of tools here, and I'm going to pull this out, and it is called a kilowatt. And of course, I can't find it when I want. There it is, right there. So this is a product. It's called Kilowatt. And so let's say you know what everything in your rig is going to run. It's going to draw, your roof air conditioners, your fridge, all that kind of stuff, TVs. But what about if I bring a Keurig in? What if I bring an AirPod, curling irons, all those CPAP machines, all those extra things that aren't really listed in normal appliances that could, throw me up over that 30 amp service? Anything with a hot coil, like a heater, curling iron, Keurigs, is going to have some real high amp draw. This is called Kilowatt. I simply plug this in, and then I plug in whatever appliance, so I know where I'm at. And it really helps kind of gauge where I am and what I'm going to draw. So Brian Breckles says, if my tires say PSI of 80 and the sticker on the RV says 62, what tire pressure should I have? And that's a great question, Brian, because that 80 PSI on the sidewall of your tires is maximum pressure at maximum weight. Meaning if you have, and I don't know what kind of rig you have, but let's say you have an 18,000 pound GVWR travel motorhome. That means that if you're at 18,000 pounds total loaded, you may be at about 14 or 15 dry, but unless you're at 18, you don't want to put 80 PSI in there. So that 62 is kind of where they're saying the average weight of this. The only way to find out proper tire inflation is to go weigh the rig and find out what weight is on that. Go to rvsafety.com and look at the tire charts for the individual tire companies, and it will tell you. Now, most of your travel trailers up until you get into the fifth wheels are going to be pretty close to what's on that sticker. But it's really important to know the weight of that that's on that tire to get the proper inflation. So, Aaron, are you back?
I'm back. Third time's the charm.
There you are. All right. Okay. So you're going to have to get somebody to mow the lawn for you in between these these interviews here, because you're out there weed whacking. I heard it, and it was like, eh. So somebody asked a question: what is your favorite Thousand Trails campsite so far?
So my favorite one is actually South Jetty. It is in Florence, Oregon. It is about, 2 miles or so from the beach. And there's dunes. So if you're a toy guy, ATVs or motocross, anything like that, you like riding around on the dunes, it's a great spot to go because there's a place right down the road from the park. And on top of that, the town of Florence is, not even 5 minutes out of the park. It's got a great downtown area. There's a lot of unique places to eat, unique stuff to do. They got a ton of events every year. It's just a really, really cool spot.
Okay. Somebody had another one up here that I was asking or trying to go through. What part of your routine has been the biggest help in having a seamless campground pack-up?
So it depends on what we're talking about. In the Airstream, we didn't have slides. So the biggest thing there was really just making sure the outside was picked up. that, we did that the night before. And then, the morning of, we're just unhooking water and electrical and we're on our way. In the fifth wheel, we still do stuff the night before, but it's a little more involved for sure. We got to make sure all the stuff's out of the way inside so we can pull in slides. Pulling in the slides takes time. We're always hyper vigilant when we're pulling slides in, so we don't go through that process quickly. We give ourselves about, I don't know, hour and a half on the outside, just to, again, do that visual inspection, go through all of our safety procedures, and get everything packed up so that everything gets to the next campground in one piece.
Yep. Well, and I was looking at this too, and what I was saying, while you were weed whacking, yeah, just kidding, is basically have a reverse checklist of, you got your pre-trip checklist. You should have a departure checklist too, and this one has things to check when leaving the campground. And some people are really good at remembering that stuff. But when you've got several people doing different things, and I would imagine you kind of have duties for each person. That so what are the kids in charge of?
For the middle one and the youngest are in charge of picking up inside. The oldest is outside with me. We're making sure the bay's packed. We're making sure the water's done. He's helping me hitch up and go through that whole process. Here in the next few times we move around, I'm probably going to have him start backing the truck in, get him some experience there. He's recently gotten licensed, so it's time to start teaching that piece of it too.
Okay. So who's in charge of making sure that liter bottle of soda pop is not wedged in between the slide room and the side wall?
That's all of us. That's all of us. So we train the kids to do 2 or 3 laps around the rig, make sure there's not stuff stuck somewhere or lodged in between a slide or somewhere we can't look. That's always a big deal, because we don't, number one, we don't want to do damage to anything, but number two, we don't want to come open the slides back up to a mess either.
Yep. Have you ever squished anything?
We haven't squished anything. We did have a scenario in the Airstream where the refrigerator didn't latch. So when we got to the next location, we got to pick up the stuff from inside the fridge and put it back.
Yeah. I've squished a couple things. One of them, I got to say, it wasn't my fault. We were doing a show out in California, and one of the ladies that was helping run the shuttle bus, they put units out there for them to sleep in at the campground, and she didn't know how to run her slide room out. And so I said, well, I'll do that. You have to have power. And she didn't have 12-volt power hooked up. So I went out there and hooked up 12-volt power. And all of a sudden I hear this push, and it was a box of wine.
Oh, bummer.
She had snuck beside the sofa, and so I got to clean that up. But anyway, I don't consider that my fault. But a lot.
Well, and the other thing we try to do to avoid that is when we're traveling, we make sure that everything has a place, so that there's not a chance for things to jostle around and then scoot behind one of those slides. Because especially when we're talking about like the kids' bedroom slide, we can't get to the other side of it. We can't see what's there. It's behind everything. The slide covers the door. And so that it really all goes to prep and making sure that everything has a place, everything's secure, and there's not a way for something to fall down over there. There's not anything back there to fall down behind that slide, because in that scenario, we're not going to see it until it goes pop.
Yep. Well, and one of the things that, I'm a fanatic about with people is when you come in to set up your rig and to tear it down, you want the jacks down, you want it level and secure before you run the slides out or bring them in. And there are some manufacturers that say just the opposite. We want it in a comfortable state to run the slide rooms and then level the coach. Every single mechanism manufacturer that I've talked to, whether it's Power Gear or Schwintech or HWH, and now Lippert, which owns just about everything except HWH, say the same thing: level the jacks, bring them down, stabilize it, get it level. Because when I was at Winnebago, we spent about 4 years developing the slide room, testing it, 15,000 extensions and retractions.
Wow.
And the biggest thing we found is that when you are in an unlevel situation or not a stable situation, you start running that room out, the chassis twists.
Yeah.
And when the chassis twists, the sidewall twists. And when that happens, you've got like that bad drawer in a dresser. You're putting excess resistance and stress on that motor, and you can literally tear that stuff apart.
Yep.
We're seeing it all the time. So we did have another question that came in here. How is Thousand Trails beneficial in the wintertime?
So, a couple of scenarios. Again, depending on where you are in the Pacific Northwest, sometimes it's just nice for a change of scenery. I mean, if it's pouring rain, you're inside no matter what. It's just a matter of where you're at, right? So and you
got the new remodeled clubhouse.
There you go. That's the other piece, right? Let's say you enjoy games, you enjoy getting out, go sit in the lodge, go hang out in there. If it's a cloudy day and not rainy, maybe the spa's open. Some of our parks have indoor pools, so it doesn't matter if it's raining. You can get out and do some of these other things. And then if you're already in the South, you're going. That's when you're going campings in the winter.
I use that in my seminar. I ask how many people are going to camp in the wintertime. You get a couple that kind of like this, and I say, okay, trick question. How many people are going to camp in the winter where it's warm? But we are seeing a lot more people that are taking, the wintertime where it's not going to be quite as crowded and do skiing and snowmobiling and cross-country skiing. And, there's a lot of activities that you can do in there. And it's nice to have a beautiful facility like you have, to be able to go out and enjoy that stuff, but then have a place that's a lot more comfortable when you come back. And do most of them, and one of the ladies did bring this up about what are you having in there. Do most of them have a laundromat?
They do. I would say the vast majority. In my personal experience, I don't have the actual numbers for, how many parks versus how many laundry facilities. But in my experience, yes, the vast majority of them do.
Okay. So you had your favorite one. What about in the Northeast? What's one of the most popular ones up there?
So a popular one up there, I would say there's multiples, but I know Moody Beach is one of them up in Maine. It's a gorgeous area. I've talked to plenty of members who have really, really enjoyed going to that park. And it, especially when you talk about the Northeast in the fall, as the season starts to change, it's gorgeous. Or early spring, coming out at the front end of spring with all the different colors that are out there. And Moody Beach is, got access to a ton of activities that are there in the area as well.
Okay. So one of the things, and when you were offline, I was talking about how nice it is you see all these campgrounds that are just getting completely saturated with people. They're beating them up. They're getting worn down very, very heavily. A lot of your state national parks are that way too, because there isn't the infrastructure money to, go in and update. Talk about the investment, in what Thousand Trails has done. And, the electrical system is top notch. There's 50, 30, 20 amp service, the water, just talk a little bit about the investment that you guys put back in to your campgrounds.
Yeah. Every year we're investing back into the park system. We've got infrastructure projects going all over the country. We've got, like I said, aesthetic projects, whether it's redoing a lodge or redoing a hot tub or a pool, making sure that those are in working condition. We're constantly looking for what is the highest priority to put money towards and get those things to the highest level we can for the members.
Okay. Yeah. And, I guess the thing that I look at is Thousand Trails. You guys are RVs. You know RVs. You're an RVer yourself. The company, as long as I have known it. In fact, give me a little bit of history. You started into that yesterday a little bit. 1969, and I think he's frozen up again. One of the things that impressed me when we were talking yesterday is that Thousand Trails isn't just a campground that jumped into the market because there's so many people doing it. 2020 we sold 600,000 RVs. 2021 it was like 495,000 RVs, and so you see a lot of these companies jump into the RV industry because it's now at a high pinnacle, thinking that, wow, look at this market. And Thousand Trails has been in this since 1969. Started off because the founder was a camper and wanted to have a better camping experience for him, his family, his friends, and they've been in it for the long haul. So it's not something they're just going to jump in, grab as much profit, jump out. It's a company that's dedicated to the RV industry, dedicated to their members. And I have the utmost respect for the companies that have done that and put the money back into their infrastructure and have a nice place. So with that, we are right at the 5 o'clock time. I do apologize for some of the little technical glitches we've had here tonight, but I think this afternoon, I think the information was good. Remember to go download the $100 discount, the download of the checklist, and the discount code for that. And if anybody has any questions, any further like this, go visit the website. We do have some videos. I did not bring this up to Katie earlier, but we have some really good videos on connecting at the campground, a good class on things to know before you go, such as dump station, hoses, the proper treatments, and these tools are all in that as well. So with that, I appreciate you joining us. Again, 1,000 Trails, and look for that $100 discount. If you're going to be going out more than a few days, this is definitely worth the money.